So thank you all for being here. Before we get started, I'd just like to mention a little bit about the Carmel Residents Association. We were established in 1987 as a civic service, social, and when necessary, political organization whose members are determined to keep Carmel-by-the-Sea a great place in which to live, play, work, and or visit. The CRA is a civic nonprofit 501c4 public benefit corporation incorporated according to the laws of the state of California. The CRA follows a long tradition of other volunteer organizations that for over 75 years have taken the lead in protecting our community against over-commercialization. We believe, as our city charter says, and I quote, that Carmel is primarily, essentially, and predominantly a residential community. Our mission statement is simple. The Carmel Residents Association is committed to the protection and enrichment of the traditional quality of life in Carmel-by-the-Sea and the preservation of its heritage and natural beauty through the education, community activities, and advocacy that we all have. We have several of our board members here tonight, and they all work very hard for your benefit and for the benefit of the community as well. And when I call their name, if they could stand, save your applause to the end, and we'll go through it from there. Ken White can't be with us tonight, but he sends his regards. Frankie Laney, I think, is out of town on yet another vacation, which is great for her. But I know Tim Toomey is here, Nancy Toomey is here, Sherry Schoenberger is on another trip as well. Sarah Harnish was pouring wine in the back. Sarah. Sherry Williams. Janine is in the back there. Janine, thank you. Mary Condry, I know you're here. J.C. Myers is out riding his bike or playing volleyball somewhere in town. Mike Brown, David O'Neill, and our last and newest board member is Hans Buder, who's not here tonight. But please give them a round of applause for all their hard work. And now we're going to pivot into our program for the evening, and it's my pleasure and delight to introduce Supervisor Mary Adams. Mary and I have known each other for quite a few years, and she has had a lifetime of public service, as many of you know. Starting with the American Cancer Society, CEO of United Way of Monterey County, and for the last 7 years as our supervisor here in Monterey County. And Mary, we thank you for all your hard work for the benefit of all of us and for the county, and your lifetime of public service is admirable, and we're all very grateful for that. So we welcome you here tonight. It's more of a fireside chat, so Mary's going to take the chair on the left, I'll be on the right. We're going to just chat through some different questions and topics and matters and so forth, and we'll see how the conversation goes. So please give Mary Adams a warm, warm welcome. So Mary, you've had a lifetime of public service. You've done a lot with the American Cancer Society, and been with the United Way, and then our supervisor. Can you kind of give us a broad brush of why you got into public service after St. Mary's and some of the highlights of your career over the last few years, I'll say?
You know, the question of how did I get into this, I think it came from actually my family. My father had 2 sisters who were Catholic nuns. My mother had a brother who was a priest and an aunt who was also a nun. And I think I was just seeing the lives that these people led that I really respected and liked. It was a very natural thing for me to be the one in the classroom when, you know, someone would say, well, you know, we should do this. And I would think, well, I will. Do you know, and it was that sort of thing. It was just a feeling of wanting to help and feeling good about that. So I think that's sort of what put me in. I was always, you know, the one that, you know, wanted to take care of the sick puppy sort of thing. And I think that those kinds of just personal qualities led me into this field. And, you know, coming of age in a time in our country where there was a need, you know, there were so many different things, and not just political things, that were happening that I think, you know, called to me. And I was able to say, okay, you know, let's see what's up, and enjoyed it. I've had a fabulous and very interesting career, and I have really enjoyed every bit of it. The people that I've had the opportunity to interact with are just wonderful, and I'm going to miss that kind of personal interaction, there's no question about it. When I look back and I think of the numbers of things that I've done, there are a couple of things that stand out to me significantly that I think about. One, when I was with the American Cancer Society, I was serving as their lobbyist. So I did all of the early anti-tobacco legislation. And I was living in Carmel Valley and commuting to Sacramento, like every day. It was not quite that bad, but at any rate, it was getting to me. But I remembered there was a part that we were working on. We had a coalition. That was one of the other things that I have always enjoyed doing. It's building coalitions. Just looking around at the problem that you have or the issue that you want to address and seeing who the other people are that either should or could become engaged with it. And I think that that's one of the keys to success, really, is to build a strong cadre of like-minded people to look at the problem. I've always thought that the more people who have an opportunity to put their hands on an issue, the better and more comprehensive the result will be. So with the Cancer Society, it was primarily the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association. Those were the main players in this coalition. And we came to a point, we were negotiating on this and that and the other thing. We were drafting legislation that was going to spend I think it was $1.5 billion that was being raised by this tobacco tax that all of us had just passed. Proposition 99 is what it was called. And everything was going well, and we had, we would work with the tobacco industry because we didn't want them fighting us. We wanted it to be really comprehensive, and we came to a very critical part, and it was whether or not we should have in the legislation that some part of the money would go for paid advertising. And I was absolutely adamant that we should do that would be the way to go. And I was just, the other people in the coalition were just totally against it because they said, they'll never go for that. They'll never agree to that. And I remember thinking to myself, who cares? This is the way we're going to be able to really turn the tide and have people stop smoking. Right. And I prevailed. And I was very thankful for that.
What year was that, Mary? That was roughly?
It was in the 90s. I think it was in the early 90s, about then. There was a wonderful doctor at UCSF who was really a big part of all of the tobacco work. And his name was Stan Glantz, and he's written a couple of books, one called The Tobacco Wars. And it's a whole history of this time. It was really, really interesting to me, of course. But at any rate, one of the statistics that he and the researchers came up with is that act alone prevented 250,000 early tobacco-related deaths. Wow. And I'm not standing up saying I saved 250,000 people.
But to be a part of that, I mean, that's a big deal.
It was part of it, and I know that it was. And I think that's the other side of the work that I've been able to do. It's being a part of it. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like Forrest Gump. I really mean it. I do. I swear I do. Because I look back now at some of the things we've accomplished at the Board of Supervisors, and I know that without the effort that went into it, we wouldn't be where we are. So that's one of the things that stands out. The other thing is much smaller, but to me, even more dear. And that is when I was elected to the Board of Supervisors, I was really kind of shocked and disappointed and, did not feel good about the fact that I found out that all people who went into a county park had to pay to get in. Even little kids, even their pets. You were taking your dog in for a walk, the child had to pay 50 cents to bring the dog into the park. Wow. And I thought that was just outrageous. And it took me a couple of years, but I was able to now have all of the parks free in Monterey County. It just mattered to me, in many parts of our county, the county themselves, the park themselves are the only backyard that kids have. It's the only place they have that they can go play. And I just thought, we've got to change that. So
Well, and there's so much open space, and whether it's Paulo Corona or Fort Ord, or, you know, no matter where you, not no matter
Toro
where
Park,
you, Toro Park,
there's
yeah.
the Whispering Pines in Monterey. There are a lot of different little pocket parks. You
Right.
know, think about our beautiful Jack's Peak Park.
Right.
You know, so it's nice for children to have the opportunity to,
Yeah.
to do that.
And we have our little Forest Hill Park here in Carmel, and Devendorf Park, and Piccadilly Park, and that's on a much smaller scale,
But
you know,
still,
obviously.
it's what, you know, where children, you know, and adults, it's older people, you need a place to sit down and play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you were the CEO of United Way Monterey County
Yes.
for a number of
For
years.
14 years.
Yeah,
Yes,
and that's a significant length of time,
It is.
and you had some significant successes there
Exactly.
too.
We started programs that are still significant. While I was there, we started Stuff the Bus, which is a program where we had people donate brand new backpacks, filled them with brand new school supplies, and then would give them to children that had demonstrated need, so that when they started school on that first day, they had something proud to wear.
That's great.
It was really fun. That was a national United Way program, but we weren't doing it here. So I brought that one in. Another one was called 211, which still exists now, and it's an information and referral system for anything, any kind of like health or human service related. So if you need to find a place, you have like someone who's coming to stay with you and they need particular help and you don't know where to take them or what to do, you can just call 211 and tell them what the problem is, and they will give you this whole series of resources that you can either call or go visit, and it's incredibly helpful. We use it a lot at the county during big fires and
Right.
such, because we don't want the 911 line to get clogged up with people, and they can call 211 and we are at the table, so we are able to tell them your evacuation route is here. You can go down to this corner and you'll be able to easily get out. So it really is kept up to date.
Right.
And it's available in, I think we have something like 112 different languages.
Wow.
It's available. So it's really, it's a wonderful, wonderful system.
I'm not sure that everyone really knows of that, and I've been here for 150 years. Well, I've been here for a few years, and that 211 system is really that's a terrific program.
It really is. I'm very proud of both of those. But once again, it's because I built a big coalition and I was able to find the right people to join me, either as staff people or volunteers, to move this forward. We also have a lot of contracts with the county to do some of those kinds of things. And it was a wonderful, wonderful time. I really, I look back on that time. It's just, so many wonderful things were taking place, and I'm glad and feel very good to have been a part of all of that.
Well, we're grateful you were part of it. I mean, what an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
But now you look back, and the American Cancer Society and United Way, the Board of Supervisors. What are you going to miss the most about all the work that you've done and the impact that you've made? I mean, saving, not that, in all due respect, Mary Adams had, 250,000 lives that you saved, but I mean, that's a significant number. I hope there's no press here, because they could probably no, but
this
seriously.
teeniest little part, in anything, I'm just a teeny little part, but without all of those teeny little parts, these things wouldn't have come to fruition. I think what I'll miss, though, truthfully, is just really that interaction with people, and the opportunity to work in a team and find a solution, and watch people go, oh my gosh, yeah, let's try this, and then see it work. That just feels so good. I think everybody in this room has had that kind of experience in one way or another. And I promised myself that I would not say yes to serving on any boards or anything for a year. That I would really take a year and completely just chill out, I think there's something else for me. I really feel strongly about that, but I know as long as I am doing this, there's no time or bandwidth for anything else, and I want to just step back for a little bit and see if I can kind of figure out what that is.
Yeah. So on July 11th, 2025, 25, we'd be delighted to have you join the CRA. And you can put that on the record now, so we'd be delighted to have you as part of that, Mary. And I'm being a bit facetious, but if Kate and everyone would let you do that, we'd be privileged to have you as part of our group, so.
But I did want to explain, because this was an odd year for elections. So the primary election took place in our county in March. And that meant that each of the supervisorial seats that were up for election took place in March. And I was very thankful that Kate chose to run. I was so thankful. We've known each other for a long time, since they were little girls. And she worked on my campaign. She headed up my campaign for me, and then she worked with me on my staff as chief of staff. And then she went to Gathering for Women, another excellent organization, and now with Senator Laird. So I was trying to think of, like, what am I going to do kind of thing, am I really going to wait for a year or so, that sort of thing. But I think I will, I think I'll be able to do that.
Kate, do you have a perspective on that?
So the election was in March, so she has had a very long engagement, because she was elected in March, but she won't come in to serve until December 31.
Wow.
So I've got 5 full months left. And God love Kate, she's continuing. She serves on the Planning Commission. She's my appointment to the Planning Commission, and that unto itself is a full-time job. So between her regular job with Senator Laird, her work on the Planning Commission, all of the volunteer activities that she does, 2 very active, fabulous little boys, and a wonderful husband and a very active and robust family, it's amazing that she's still sitting here.
But you leave the county in excellent hands. I mean, after your 7 years, and we'll get into some of those details in a minute here, but you truly do.
I do.
And I'm not being patronizing, but with Kate's history here and everything that you just described, I mean, we should all feel very comfortable about that. And so that transition plan is great.
It brings, it's comfortable to me. I would not have felt good retiring if it weren't for Kate being ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm forever indebted.
And she's here taking notes tonight, because now we can pivot into some of the county issues that you've been working on, diligently. And one of the things that we've been working on, as you all know here in Carmel, is the housing element. And we believe at the CRA that we want to maintain local control, not at any cost, but at just about any cost, because we don't need, again, in all due respect, the bureaucrats from Sacramento, telling us what to do in our 1 square mile. We're always open for input, but and then you and the county have a housing element that you're working on as well. So we can talk a little bit, about that, and we're happy to share with you where we are. But you
Good, I'd
probably
like to know that.
Yeah.
But I'll give just a little bit of background on it, because a lot of people are not familiar with it. And forgive me for the notes, but I want to make sure I get this right. My chief of staff, Colleen, is here, and if I get it wrong, she's welcome to come up and take the microphone. But every 8 years, every city and county has to update its housing element to demonstrate how the jurisdiction or the county is going to meet the housing needs for its expected population growth. So it's called the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, and we commonly call it the RHNA numbers. And the allocations for Monterey County's unincorporated areas are a total of 3,326 units. 1,070 have to be for very low income people, 700 for low income people, 420 for moderate income people, and 1,136 for above moderate income. So it's an interesting approach to how are you going to do this? How are you going to come up with all of the housing that's actually needed? And there was some controversy. AMBAG, the Association of Monterey Bay Area Governments, was part of the process to adopt the allocation methodology of how the units would be allocated for each jurisdiction. And that means that it's not just Monterey County, it's Monterey County, San Benito County, and Santa Cruz County. So it's all of those entities had to come up with this number of how many can we take, how many can you take, sort of thing. It really had more requirements from the state in this cycle than it's had in the last numbers of cycles for these numbers. And I think the more impactful requirements was that there was this initiative that came in this time that had not been in before, called the Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. And essentially what that meant is that it required housing units be allocated in high resource areas, like Carmel, like Carmel Valley, Big Sur, like places that, example, have really good school districts. That's one of the things. So, you know, often people will say, well, you know, why don't you just put them out in Fort Ord, or put them, you know, in down in South County? You know, that's where people live. That's where they need the housing. But they don't qualify because they don't have the kinds of high resources that are needed to satisfy the state government for this. So that's, you know, we need more housing for the people that work here. We all know that. And it's up to us to try to figure out ways to do it. One of the biggest problems we have is traffic. And it isn't, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of tourists coming in every morning at 8 o'clock or leaving every afternoon at 4. We really have a transportation issue about where people live and where they work. And this process is supposed to be able to help us just address all of that. So we have to simply make more housing available, and we have to make it more affordable to maintain the communities that we want to have and where we want to live. So this is how we have, you know, gone about approaching it. We have to put together a plan. Each entity, either the city of Carmel as an example, or the county of Monterey, our unincorporated area. And it's for the whole unincorporated area. It's not just District 5. It's the entire unincorporated area. So we had to come up with a process that was going to work, and then we submit that to the State Housing and Community Development Department, and they review it. They can take, I think 30 days is about the normal time that they're going through. And then they come back and we have the opportunity to, you know, if they say it doesn't do what we need to do, then we've got to fix it. But generally, you know, they're saying yes. What happens, however, that is not a very positive thing, is that if you don't meet the deadlines that the state has set, then there are certain kinds of penalties that happen. And unfortunately, the county has missed 2 deadlines already for submitting our plans. And the Planning Commission reviewed, this is what Kate serves on, reviewed the housing element on May 15th, and then the board reviewed it on June 11th, and then we had hours and hours and hours of public comment, primarily focused on the sites that had been determined on where these housing units were going to go. And we submitted the draft to the state for review, and then at this point we're waiting to hear back from them, at which point we'll be able to finalize and adopt the housing program. It's an odd process because we are, you know, we say we've got the possibility, we could put, you know, X number, 24 units here, but you're saying that thinking that that's, you know, that could work. It's not saying we are going to do it there. So this is all a plan, and it's the first time I've ever worked on anything like this, so it has been a very eye-opening circumstance. On one hand, it's something that we need, and I totally understand that, and I'm very supportive of doing it. But on the other hand, if we're just saying, well, we could do it, what is the point of all this aggro that we're going through to get this, you know, this work done? So, at any rate, at this point, we're planning to submit the draft of the housing element to the state on August 16th. And then we will provide an update to the Board of Supervisors on August 20th. At that point, then we'll see if we're ready to completely, you know, to complete it. One of the things that happens is that if you've missed the deadline, the first is that you are now subject to what's called the builder's remedy, and I tend to refer to it as the builder's revenge. But at any rate, that's where we are now, and what that means that even though we're early in the process, if the county has lost its ability, its right to say, no, this is what we want, you know, goodbye. the county now, or sorry, the state now has the opportunity to say, no, it needs to be here. I'm sorry you don't like it. It's where it's going to be. And that's a very unusual place for anyone to be, but particularly in government. So we're all a little bit undone with that. One of the other things is that if you continue to miss deadlines, you may not be allowed to get benefit from some state grants. And that's really a big deal.
Right.
So that's one of the other areas that we're having to deal with now. So someone had asked about property here in the Carmel. It's not Carmel-by-the-Sea, it's in the Carmel area.
It's in the sphere of influence. I think probably what we're talking about is the hospital
The
site.
convalescent hospital, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know that people have asked, so where does it stand right now? Well, we talked today just before we came over here, actually, and there have been no plans submitted for that piece of property at all. But if in fact they choose to, then unfortunately the builder's remedy will take precedence, and they will be able to, do work there.
So would that be a fast track then, do you think, Mary? Or maybe that's a question for Kate, being on the planning commission, but if that is fast track, that could happen pretty quickly.
Well,
And I'm not trying to put you on the
no,
spot,
I'm
but it's
happy
kind
to
of a fluid
answer.
discussion.
But it's the important distinction is with the builder's remedy is you lose your discretion. So this
Right.
would have normally been a discretionary permit where the planning commission or the board of supervisors would get to weigh the various cost benefit of the project. And so traffic could be one of the things we're weighing. We could be weighing, various things that we do every permit application.
Sure.
We sort of lose that discretion. It's like taking it away from the body that would decide and bringing it to the counter. A
Right.
really simple way to sort of describe it. If you meet certain criteria, you can go forward. I will say there was a supervisor at the housing element meeting that said something that was incorrect, and that was that the one of the sites that was removed, Tarpey Flats, there were four different sites. And what was mentioned by the supervisor was that, well, there's the builder's remedy, so the applicant is going to get to move forward no matter what. It isn't no matter what. There's still the environmental process. It doesn't throw CEQA out the window or anything like that. So for that particular site that they were referring to, there were a number of issues that were brought up by the Native Plant Society, by the Big Sur Land Trust, by one of the Esalen Indians in the ocean,
Right.
all brought up issues with that particular site. Those don't just go out the window.
Right.
You're still going to have to go through a full environmental analysis, and there may be challenges that you can't overcome. But the simplest way I can think of to describe it is you lose the discretion.
Right.
It's like moving from the body that gets to say yes or no to the window.
Right, and therefore, that's why we're working so hard here at Carmel-by-the-Sea to keep the control local. And we do have an approved and adopted housing element, which was great. Candidly, there's some sites on that element that we're trying to get off, and we're gonna go through a revision and an amendment process, and hopefully we can come up with some additional sites. And Carmel-by-the-Sea, as you guys well know, we have 349 units that we have to come up with. And now 118 of those are market rate, that's for sure. And so, but even then, that's not easy, because the pink elephant in the room is, and it's a 5-letter word, and it's not money, it's water. And so that leads to the next part of the discussion about that. And I can see some hands in the audience as well, so we'll get to your questions in just a minute. But let's talk about the water and how that's integrated into the hospital site, which probably has grandfathered in water from when it was a hospital when Sarah, Mark, and I were kids. But there's no new water available at this point, from my understanding. So let's talk a little bit about the water.
Could I just drink some?
Sure.
Well, there's no question that it's the trickiest issue that we have. And it really is. It remains the elephant in the room.
Right.
And it will continue to do so. I mean, who's gonna build a house if you have no water?
Right.
So that's it. No, we have been working on the Pure Water Monterey project. that is using recycling water. I heard a comment made about a year or two ago, and it resonated with me, and it was that no drop of water should just be used once. That, you know, there should be you ought to be able to reuse water consistently, because it's such a fleeting resource, and we won't have it forever. So I think that's something that we really need to look at, and there are many studies that show that if we continue moving forward as we are with the recycled water project, that we should have enough water for the expanded RENA numbers as well.
Right.
So that's gonna be an interesting process to see, and, I noticed I'm sitting on the left and you're sitting on the right. So.
And your point is what? No. Mary and I have known each other for a few years, so we're good. We generally don't take questions from the audience, but it's more of an intimate group tonight, and I know Sarah raised her hand, and there was a young lady in the back that raised her hand as well. So we'll keep the questions brief, succinct, and to the point. And ma'am, in the back there, did you have a question?
Yes, I do, for Case Board Mary. Just set me straight if you would. The builder's remedy include the loss of discretion of design review for the structure?
I would say yes, if you want me to answer
Yeah, go
that,
ahead.
only because,
Can you repeat the question?
so does design review get lost in the builder's remedy process? I mean, I don't know, I don't have an answer to your question because I don't know specifically, but it's basically, if you have check boxes in your general plan, if you have building guidelines in your county or your jurisdiction, you have a certain number of boxes. And it's basically saying if you can check those boxes. So down in the specifics of building design, I mean, we have this issue in Carmel Valley. We're supposed to have rural character. Well, you can interpret rural character a million different ways. So do you get down into the nitty gritty of what rural character is? No, it's a technician at the window saying, this is rural, it's white, right? So in that regard, I can't imagine you have a lot of discretion even in, I mean, if you check the box, it probably will go.
Yeah, Sarah?
So my question's related to the builder's remedy as well. Do they have to meet the guidelines regarding moderate housing, moderate income and low income? Is it carte blanche? They can just build?
Along the inclusionary housing ordinance. So it's basically most locations of 80-20
Okay.
percentage.
Okay.
So 80% market rate, 20% have to be affordable.
Okay. So they have some constraints.
Right. Colleen now has a good point as well, so
And
please.
Google tells me the builder's remedy applies only to a housing development project for very low, or moderate income households and emergency shelters.
No, you can build market rate housing with the builder's remedy.
So I tell you what, Kate and Colleen, you can take that
I mean,
off.
because the hospital site will be an 80-20 site as far as I understand it. The sites that are on Valverde are the other sites that are utilizing the builder's remedy. The Tarpey Flat site, if you utilize the builder's remedy, is 450 units, and so that would be 80% affordable. So I mean, the 20% does use that breakdown.
So now we're in a staff meeting that Mary's gonna have.
Yeah.
I apologize for that. So we're gonna pivot off housing because we could talk about this for a long time. But good questions, and maybe we wanna talk after the meeting. And I can clearly see you guys are already debating it. So Mary, you and I are gonna move on and continue with our conversation. So there's some projects that are impacting Carmel-by-the-Sea, public works and that type of thing. At the top of Ocean Avenue, when you cross from the county into Carmel, there's a tract of land there or road there that is in dire need of, some work. And so whether it's our public works with Bob Harari or your public works, how do we go about working together to do that? And then that will dovetail into scenic and, how, because you can delineate where you come out of Carmel-by-the-Sea into the county with the little dots on the road. But there's sometimes a vast difference in the quality of the roads, if you will. I guess my point is there more opportunity for collaboration, and what can we do to move that forward?
So, yes, I believe there is more opportunity for collaboration, and I'll tell you one way that I think it is, that I think we can do and how we should be working together. This is new information, and that is that we are proposing, I think I can say this publicly, we are proposing, the county is proposing to put a 1% sales tax increase on the November ballot.
Mhm.
And that it will be targeted to go to road construction, infrastructure, those sorts of things, a lot of other things as well.
Mhm.
But that 1% sales tax will raise $28 million. And one of the biggest problems that we have right now within the county is our budget. Because the rising costs that we have for staff, for benefits, just as an example, are some of the biggest expenses that we have. And even though the revenue has continued to improve, the transient occupancy tax as well as property taxes are increasing. It's great, but not as robustly as the expenses are.
Mhm.
So the county, this 1% sales tax would only be in the unincorporated area. So it's not gonna add another, 1% onto the city of Carmel's tax structure.
Okay.
It's two totally separate things. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the county's sales tax is 2% less than virtually all of the other places except the city of King City
Oh, really?
and the city of Gonzales, exactly. I think it's 7.75, and I'm not sure where you guys are right now with your sales tax, but I know it's probably around almost 10%, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken. So, at any rate, what I'm hopeful is that we'll be able to have the jurisdictions support us in trying to pass this tax measure, because it will benefit everyone. I don't think there's a person in this room who drives out Carmel Valley that is not just horrified at the shape of Carmel Valley Road. I mean, you drive it on your way to play tennis every day.
But no, don't
Tennis
give away
balls
this.
probably
There's a lot of things you could have said. And Mary's one of her dear friends. She and I used to play tennis together, Lorna Monroe. And I know Mary loves Lorna, and I do too. And we miss her dearly, and I do think of her just about every time I have those bouncing balls.
But at any rate, that's an example of what the benefit could be for passing this sales tax. So the sales tax increase. So my hope is that if you live in the unincorporated area, you will be able to vote on it. If you live within the jurisdiction of Carmel-by-the-Sea, you won't be able to vote on it. So it's a tax that will be applied to all of the unincorporated area, and therefore only people who live in the unincorporated area are able to vote for it. So we went through quite a bit to determine, is that truly the way it is?
Mhm.
And yes, and it is. So we've
Okay.
gone through the state and everybody else to figure out how that's gonna work. So yes, if we can all work together and ensure that there's another $28 million coming into the county coffers, I think that would be a terrific thing. I see Janine in the back, and there was a push to get the transient occupancy tax, which is the tax of tourism that visitors pay on hotel rooms. And I was very adamant against doing that, because what I have seen and what I have heard and what I truly believe is that even though we're really back on a roll as far as tourism goes, and there are some places in the county that are being over-visited, in the long term, in the bigger picture, we are not caught up to where we were before COVID, the pre-COVID, and that's a real big issue, especially in places like the city of Monterey, where the conference center is. One of the things that they rely on are small conferences, small, conventions sort of things. So, like the Bankers Association or whatever, the Investors Association, whatever it may well be. That group of business has not returned. And it's an extremely important one. It really is, because for a hotel, you get a whole lot more bang for your buck when you've got someone who's coming in to look at booking 50 rooms instead of, your, husband and wife are coming in to book a room for 3 nights for their little vacation. So at any rate, I was very thankful that my colleagues agreed with me that we should not toy with this until we get back on track to where we were prior to. Thank you, Janine. She's blowing the kisses.
And that relates to Carmel-by-the-Sea, I mean, we have a fairly high TOT right now, and we're blessed with some
Yes.
pretty high occupancy. I don't know if it's quite COVID levels or before COVID, but this last weekend was unbelievable. It was unbelievable everywhere. I don't think there was one hotel room in the county, much less Carmel-by-the-Sea.
Yeah.
So
And we're just getting into busy season.
right,
You
but
know,
that's right.
Pretty soon it's gonna be car month.
That's right,
Yeah.
that's right. You know, as I look at my watch, and I kind of had a feeling it would go this way, I think it's about 7:45, so we're gonna not wrap it up quickly here, but a couple other questions, and then we have a little something for you at the end of the talk here. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Carmel River Free project?
Yes.
I think that's a really positive thing
Yes.
that you're all working on, and
Yes.
please.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is one of the best projects ever. And one of the best parts about it is that everybody has, you know, the big coalition has really been working hard on it. The funding is there for it. There's not anyone who has anything against the Carmel River Free project. So that's moving along very, very well. There's one little glitch that we have, and that is that there was a lack of communication between the Army Corps of Engineers and a group that, the nickname is SHPO, SHPO, and it is it's the California State Historic Preservation Office. And there was some disagreement that they had. I should have you start going back to your, looking at Flo here and the work that she was able to do for the tourism industry. But at any rate, there was a disconnect between those two. We were able to find where the problem was within the Army Corps of Engineers. We were back in Washington. We were meeting with the big, you know, kahuna, this wonderful woman, and she made a couple of phone calls to San Francisco, and boom, the piece of paper that
Really?
needed to be signed was signed, and it was moved forward. Now it's stuck at the state. And Kate, I'm not sure where we stand with that, with the state historic preservation on that, but I know it's one of the things that we need to ensure we can complete, so that we can put the last bit of money in, and then we can go ahead and get shovels in the ground. I think the hope for that was that we would be able to have that done. They were hoping I was hoping for 2024.
Yeah.
But my expectation is in 2025 that we'll be able to see that start to happen. And that will totally redesign the river back to its original path.
Wow.
And there'll be like have you ever gone over the Yolo Causeway? It will be similar to that, in that there will be water that will pass underneath the road, Highway 1. And then it will stop any kind of flooding that would happen from Carmel River in the Mission Fields and the whole Crossroads barnyard area. So it's really a big, fabulous project. Big Sur Land Trust was the originator of it, and then there have been so many other entities and organizations that have been working on it.
So where do you start on Carmel River? How far east is it at the old San Clemente Dam, all the way to the ocean, or?
Well, the main part of the work will be just at the mouth of the valley, essentially, at that part. But, you know, you have to look at the whole river.
Right.
The river does start all the way up in the mountains, so it'll be a wonderful project.
So we're hoping late this year we see some shovels in the ground and some.
I was hoping for late this year, but I think it's gonna be in more like late 25.
Yeah.
So another year from now.
And you'd be delighted to have Kate take credit for that.
I will be very happy. As long as she
It's
promises
been
to
going
invite
so
me.
many years.
Yeah.
One last, please go,
No,
yeah.
I was just going to say that there was something else that has become a big deal. If anybody wants to go down to Nepenthe for, you know, dinner or anything, you know what it's like to get across the Bixby Creek Bridge now. It's just a nightmare and continues to be so. We've had two things happen that are really good. One is we were able to get, I think it was Google Maps. Was it Google Maps that agreed? We found out that Google Maps was pointing people to the Old Coast Road
Oh, boy.
to park, that was parking. So we were able to get them to change it. We're still working with Apple, and they're more difficult to make change. But we are going to be working on an agreement that is not finished yet, but, you know, we've got our fingers crossed, It went through one hurdle with the Board of Supervisors, and now we've got a few other hurdles that would only allow parking in a very limited way up Old Coast Road. Because at this point, if you've been down there, my gosh, the people who live up on the Old Coast Road can't get out to go to the doctor or to the grocery. People
Yeah.
are just as rude as you can imagine with just parking their cars and leaving the doors open and getting out and, wandering around. I wonder who are these people?
We wonder the same thing.
Exactly.
Really?
Well, I was down there. There was a group of us that went down. We had people, two coastal commissioners were with us. The fire chief was there. He's got a big car. It's all very official looking. And we're standing there, like a line of people. And this guy comes up in his minivan, stops right there, opens the doors, lets everybody out, continues just to sit there. And I thought, if nothing else, you'd think that they would, stop.
Right.
But we're trying to work with the highway patrol to have someone there, that would be able to monitor this and be able to just move traffic along.
Yeah.
It is a huge problem.
Yeah.
But at any rate, that's that.
Well, the Old Coast Road was a favorite of ours, and I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but we'd go down to the gorge and have some fun down there, and then you take the Old Coast Road back because no one was on the Old Coast Road. Now everyone's on
Now
the
everyone's on the Old
and it's
Coast.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
So,
it really is. And that, the community of Big Sur is just absolutely amazing. It is so resilient. Every time I go down, I just feel uplifted because their attitude is always so positive. And when you think of what the businesses have suffered and what the people have suffered, the children, that road has just been closed and closed and closed and closed again.
yeah.
So we're very thankful with our relationship with Caltrans though, because the most recent closing at Rocky Creek, they were able to turn it around just like that. They just pulled out all the stops and had 24/7 workers, in, dangerous sort of
Oh, yeah,
settings
sure. Yeah.
doing it. So that's it. That's my story. It's
So as we wrap up, here we are in our 1 square mile with, roughly 3,500 residents, give or take. You've got the county that, in District 5 represents 20-some thousand people.
District 5 is more like 48,000, I
Okay.
think. Now, is that about right? 47,000?
All of District 5, I'm sorry, I was
Yeah,
thinking.
District 5.
What counsel would you give us as we move forward? And this is, not so much for Kate, but for those of us in Carmel-by-the-Sea, with all the things going on at the state level, you've got water, some of the things we talked about tonight and so forth. What would your counsel be to us to keep our control local here?
Stay engaged.
Yeah.
I really think just 2 words, stay engaged. I have a strong belief as well when I think about things that are happening and the discomfort at the national level as well. If communities are strong at the local level, we'll all be fine.
Mm-hmm.
We really will. And the best way to do that is to stay engaged. Read as much as you can. Follow, different online stories. Watch the Board of Supervisors meeting. Watch the Planning Commission meeting. They're all on cable television, I think it is, channel 24 or 28.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those sorts of things that I think will always spur an idea in someone. Somebody will just get a great idea, and then boom, all of a sudden, things are back on track.
Yeah, and we look at all the volunteer organizations that Carmel-by-the-Sea has, and whether it's the garden club or the women's club where we are today, or the Kiwanis or Lions or any of the other service organizations, including ours and Rotary as well. I mean, it really is a remarkable community that does get involved. So whether it's housing, whether it's water, whether it's traffic or collaboration, we're all in this together, and we sure appreciate all your time, not only tonight, but in the years past as well. So let's give Mary a round of applause. And before we wrap up, we have one more special award. Mary, I'm going to ask that you just continue to sit there for just a second, if you don't mind. So as I said earlier on, the Carmel Residents Association has been around since 1987, and we don't give out many awards, but we do give out awards to people in organizations that have gone over and above the call of duty. And it's our privilege tonight, Mary, to honor you with the Carmel Residents Association Public Service Lifetime Achievement Award. And we have a certificate that outlines some of the accomplishments that you've had, many of what we talked about tonight. And so from our organization and for me personally, and Lorna as well, we recognize you with this Lifetime Achievement Award for public service, and we're grateful to be part of your journey. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.